Whoops. All right. Hello and maybe welcome everyone. We'll give it a second. Make sure it's actually displaying the way it's supposed to. Yes, it looks like we are up on YouTube. So hey, first of all, sorry so much for being a half hour late. Yes, a half hour late. You know, I'm gonna blame this mystery person. His name is close to Thomas Potts, but he has two S's, and I don't know what that's about, but he showed up last night. I think I summoned him, and he said my new streaming schedule was no streams. But, you know, it almost worked. But I'm here, and we're going to have a good time watching this week's episode of SeaQuest. And actually make sure that's going over to Twitch as well for the one or two people who like to watch it over there. Or, you know, if YouTube just decides it's not going to work tonight.
Assuming they're still awake. Well, if I fell asleep waiting for you.
Yeah, if anyone is still awake. Well, how are you doing tonight, John?
I'm good. How about you?
I am here. It's been a busy day. Okay, so doing this bike thing I'm doing, the last ingredient I need is a webcam that I can use to actually stream the bike ride while at the same time I'm like showing a bunch of data about the bike ride, you know, how long I've gone. It's actually going to build the map as I'm doing it, which works. Everything's working phenomenally, and I'm really excited about it. But I recently discovered, as in this week, that the little action camera I had was no good whatsoever. It was crap. And it's frustrating because I bought that, like, it was a cheap camera, and I'm like, okay, gotta test this. And it took me so long to do everything else that I'm way past the return date. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to bite the bullet and go buy a GoPro. Which, fortunately, there's a place on the other side of the Metroplex for me. So I live over on the Fort Worth side. And on the Dallas side of everything, there's a store called Micro Center. And it's an amazing place. It's what Fry's Electronics used to be. It's an electronics store. You can get little tiny components, Arduinos, and I took my son today. It was like he was in a candy store. He's like, this is amazing. We've never been to a place like this. I want to be here all the time. But it's a solid hour's drive. And so we go there. I get the, you know, it's already been open. That's why I had to get it from this place, because it's already been open. So it was like, you know, a quarter off. And I get it, and I get home, and I find out that the silver editions of GoPros cannot do any live streaming. If you want to leave the battery door open all the time, you can hook it up with a USB and have a webcam, but it's like, why would I ever do that? So I had to make a second trip out there because I don't want to waste time tomorrow, because whenever I go out there, I lose like half a day. So I'm like, I just got to get this done tonight. So I showed up like right before they closed and got everything I needed to. And it was a mess, but it's done. And, very frustrating, but hey, we are here and we're here to have some fun.
And Thomas points out that Amazon sells GoPro. You don't have to drive anywhere.
It's true, but then I'd have to pay full price for them. And full price, they're like $300 or something. And I'm not going to pay that. I don't have $300 money, especially not for, I mean, the point of this is, in the end, I want to be raising some charity and showing how far I'm going and be able to live stream this, have a good time with everyone who's willing to support me in this. And it's like, if you're going to spend that much, it's like, why don't just donate to the charity, man, at that point. So I wanted to get everything as cheaply as possible. I am disappointed that I couldn't use the super cheap, like $50 one I got, but just, it wasn't working. Maybe if I had infinite time, I could have figured out that one last trick that would have made everything work. But unfortunately, I just couldn't do it. And the GoPro, it actually can stream straight to YouTube. So I can stream to YouTube, capture my YouTube stream, and just plop it in. Like, I can build an OBS source and just assemble everything. It's going to look great. It's going to look fantastic. But if it works, all this becomes meaningless, and it turns out on the bike ride I have like zero reception, in which case everything I've been doing is suddenly completely pointless. So let's hope that's not the case.
That's about what I expect from Ebenezer Bennett.
Exactly. Oh wow! I really hope that's not it. But hey, let's get this party started. Hey to everyone in the chat: 47 Yorktown, Josh Street, John DiMarco, Professor Brainy Specs. I know Bradley Briggs is there. Yep, there's Bradley Briggs, Thomas Potts. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. And of course, the one Amy, that would be my beloved. Thank you so much for letting everyone know that I was pathetically late. And I want to say I saw LDG or Geeks Enjoy at some point. How are you doing? I missed you last night. I was hoping to have you around to the chit chat Marvel stuff, or the MCI, as apparently I call it now. So sorry I missed you. The Last Victorian. Yes, sir. I do need to invest in a watch. I hope you're still around. Hope you haven't bounced out, because that was a solid half hour ago. I am at bird levels of behind the chat. And it's because I wasn't here. Like, at least he gets behind because there's so many people talking. I'm just behind because I was a bad host.
Matthew.
Yeah.
And thank you for the beard achievement, by the way. Appreciate it.
What's that? Oh, the beard comment. Yes, it is a fantastic beard.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, and he's saying he's going to send me a pocket watch. So actually, just out of reach, I have... Actually, no, let me do this. I know this is horrible to just walk off in the middle of a stream, but
Somebody
I
added to
actually
the list of impeachment articles.
I do have an extremely nice pocket watch. This was my grandpa's. The guy, whenever he had a wristwatch on his hand, it broke. Didn't matter how good of a wristwatch it was. Just something about the abuse he put through, like the thing on his wrist, 100% of the time broke. Just stopped keeping time. So he was such an interesting guy. He taught himself how to use cranes and bulldozers, how to weld. He did all these cool things, these rugged man things. Like when he was an old man, he goes to the doctor. He's like, "Doc, I got serious health problems. I'm not able to do everyday tasks." And they're like, "Well, what do you mean by everyday tasks?" And he said, I can't carry my chainsaw and my 60-foot ladder anymore." And he was like, late 60s, early 70s. And the doctor's like, "What are you talking about? Like, this is stuff you shouldn't be doing anyway." So for all this stuff, the man insisted on having a fine china coffee cup. It's the only one he had. He had to save up for a long time and get it. But he had a fine china coffee cup and a fine china saucer to go with it. And every morning he'd sit at his window and he'd drink his coffee out of his saucer cup. And the other thing that it made no sense that he went out and did it, but he got this Hamilton railway watch, or pocket watch. Rail something. I can't read it because it's 10 o'clock exactly now. Well, the clock says it. I have it a little behind, but he just went out and got this one day. Craziest thing, like rugged man, and then he just enjoyed these delicate things every once in a while. So I do have a pocket watch. It was my dad's, or it was my granddad's, and when he passed away, he gave it to my dad. And when my dad passed away, he left it to me, and I really, really enjoy it. I'm glad he chose to leave that one to me.
It's fascinating that apparently not making sense runs in the family.
Yes, it's genetic. And it's hard because my sons have this trait. I'm like, what were you thinking? And like, well, it made sense to me, Dad. I'm like, well, I'm glad it made sense to someone. Oh gosh. And Last Victorian, he was a really nice gentleman. He was a character. So I don't mean to derail things, but I'm like a dog seeing squirrels.
Too late.
He made this playground in his backyard for us. So he lived up in the northwestern part of Arkansas, and just retired up there, had maybe an acre and a half of land and a tiny little house on it. And he made in his backyard out of random pipe this playground for us, monkey bars, swings, this teeter-totter, but teeter-totters were too boring. So he put an axle in the middle of it, and the whole thing could spin around as a giant death trap. So he had two seats on either side, and you just spin each other until you fell off. And then he put up a zip line in the back, and it was incredible things he did. he loved to do artwork with like metal, and it wasn't like the crappy modern art you see today. It was legitimately like he'd take this art and he'd heat up the metal and he'd get it to bend in just the right way. And so you'd have like the stained glass painting sort of thing where, you know, you'd have the curls and, or not stained glass, but you know how the old time books in the Middle Ages, they doodle in the margins, they just fill it up with like, you know, ivy work and stuff. He would do that with metal. I mean, he was also he was also a very crass man. Don't get me wrong. He didn't come to know Christ until later on in his life. They often joked that for his wedding, he and his wife, they got in on a Sunday morning and had the pastor finish the sermon, and they were able to get out before church ever started. And that's how he spent most of his life. And it was only as an old man that he came to know the Lord. And so several times he'd be talking and it'd be like, oh, wow, my grandpa just said that. All right, then. Especially got older, where like, you know, you get older and your filters start to slip a little bit. And so it was an interesting guy. He was a fun guy to go off on that rabbit trail. And thanks, Victorian. I don't think I've seen you around, but I am certainly glad to have you here. I'm going to say this one more time and hopefully make it the truth. We're going to get started.
So the last Victorian is Monty, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
Oh, I didn't. I did not. Where did he say that? This is Monty, by the way. Oh, I'm glad to have you here, Monty. Yes, that makes sense now that you would be saying that. You too. I think you're telling me how you maybe collect or work on old lathes, I want to say. And that would absolutely be something that my granddad would have enjoyed. But hey, we are going to get started. I'm saying it again. And the way this works is I'm going to put the link to the watch room over in the chat, if I can get it to come up here. No, I want to copy, not paste. There we go. Yeah, so I'm going to pin this in the chat in YouTube. And if you are watching this right now, you can click on that link, which hopefully shows up for everyone as a pinned message in just a second. And you can watch the episode with us. This is the episode straight off of Peacock TV. And all it does is it lets us sync up our watch times together so that we're, you know, plus or minus a couple seconds of each other as we watch this. If for any reason you're not with us right now, you can't watch it, or maybe you're watching this here in the future, you're going to have to go to Peacock TV and watch it yourself. But good news, unlike Netflix and Hulu and everything else out there, Peacock TV's free. Like, I don't get their business model, but I'm extremely appreciative of it. You give them an email account. In theory, it has to be legitimate. I'm not saying there's burner email accounts out there, but if you don't like handing out email accounts, I know that there are things you could do to limit that. And once you get signed up, that's it. You get to watch all the SeaQuest you could want at whatever speed you want. So there's absolutely a way to do it. And if you absolutely refuse to sign up for one more online service, you know, the DVDs are out there. You might pay a lot for them, but if you're patient, you can find on either Amazon or eBay or somewhere, you can find the DVDs for not too outrageous a price. So you can get all 3 seasons of SeaQuest. If, as Thomas is saying, if maybe in the future Peacock TV isn't free, maybe you just don't want to sign up for an email account, maybe you're on a cell phone and all you can do is watch John and me, well, we've got you covered. We are going to include some clips in the box down below there, below John and I, so that if for any reason you just can't watch it and you're not going to watch in the future, you can at least see what's going on. And we'll give you an idea of what's going on. Although, let's be honest, I get easily distracted and start talking about, well, you know, that's an interesting point they said. And so I'm not going to do it word for word. I am not as impressive as Bird of Prey is. Bird of Prey can more or less tell you everything that's being said and answer comments. I can only do one or the other. And frankly, I do them both poorly, if we're to be quite brutally honest.
And we like being brutal around here, especially with Matthew.
Yes, we are brutal, but it's a good brutal. You know, where honesty is, it's a good policy, and I stand by it. So with all that said, hopefully you have trickled into the streaming room if you're going to watch it with us. And we are going to go and do this. I'll give you a 5 count so that if you're in the future and you're watching on Peacock TV, you can more or less sync up with us. So here we go, everyone. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hit that play button and let's start the clips. So it starts off and we pan across an old rusted sign that says Genuflect Incorporated. Surrounded by some chain link fence and some razor wire, it looks like, on the top. And Dagwood comes stumbling out of this place, shielding his eyes from the sunlight. And just rips his way through the chain link fence. And Josh Street is asking for... Oh, go on.
I was just saying that Captain Bridger seems to be conducting an orchestra somehow.
And he's doing a pretty good job. But apparently he's in his skivvies, it appears. And, you know, I kind of assumed this was just sailor shorts.
I guess.
But like, I assume, like, I could totally see the Navy doing this. Like, everyone's in coattails and stuff, and then, but they're wearing, like, just Navy shorts. But then it cuts, and apparently he's talking to B'Elanna Troi. And it's not just Navy shorts, it's his underwear that he was in. He's like, you know, I had dreams like other guys, you know, sports, women, but I had this dream over and over, a repeating dream. And Josh Street, he's asking for the link to Bird's GoFundMe. If someone could put that into the chat, I'm not going to be able to look it up during the stream. And I'm curious, did you ever have a dream that you had over and over again, John?
I've always had a hard time remembering my dreams, so if so, I probably wouldn't know.
I've never had a repeat dream. I dream like nonstop, and I remember most of the dreams I have. At least I remember them until like lunchtime. But I've never had a dream where I'm like, oh yeah, this is a dream I have over and over and over again. Like, not even a variation of a theme. And hey, Professor Bernie Specs, thank you so much for dropping the link to Bird of Prey's GoFundMe, which, if you guys missed that, Bird of Prey 5, he's in need of a wheelchair because the one he has does not work, and he needs to be able to get his heart checked out, which means he's going to have to go to a cardiologist. Like, finding a cardiologist who's willing to come to his house, they exist, but they insist on the first one being in their office for some reason. And so in order to get to the office, he needs a wheelchair that can safely get into a van. And unfortunately, his wheelchair, it had a recall. They tried to fix it, but instead they just broke it. So they did meet, the GoFundMe met its donation. It's currently, thank you, Josh Street, it's currently at $6,145 out of $5,000. But guys, there's going to be tax, there's going to be shipping, there's going to be other problems. So if you're willing, please absolutely go over to that GoFundMe and continue to support Bird of Prey, because it's not just going to be $5,000. There's going to be more things involved there.
And as for his cardiologist, the last thing I heard when he was on his stream earlier is that he had to call out to a couple of places that were possibilities.
Okay. Oh, and Josh is saying that there's a new goal on the GoFundMe. What's the new goal? I'm not going to be able to pull it up. But it's for a hospital bed that doesn't give a red alert. And while we've been talking about this, what's going on in SeaQuest right now is that every year, apparently, they have to do a psych evaluation. And everyone's having to talk to B'Elanna Troi and go over kind of any sort of mental health issues they might have. And Jim from last week, the lieutenant who's kind of Ford's quasi-equal, he he's really nervous about this. He's complained that, oh, my last name starts with a B, so I was always like the third person to have to give presentations and stuff. So I was always in the hot seat. And then I was always going after some brainiac who knew it all. And it's impossible to live up to whatever they just did. And, Lucas is like, what are you complaining about? It's not that big of a deal. And he's like, oh, yeah, you say that. You're a W. By the time the teacher gets around to your report, they're like, whatever, let's just be done with this. But instead of pulling in James, she pulls in Lewis. Lewis is next up on the episode, talking to the doctor about his issues. And Dagwood is stumbling off through the forest, and he comes to this strange guy's house who's apparently watching Frankenstein, obviously appropriately. And he comes in holding on to what looks to be a thick tree branch or a log or something. And he says, "Are you my father?" And the guy kind of, let me look at you. And he starts to walk around him. He's, well, in the biblical sense, no, but, on another sense, yes. He is the guy who created Dagwood. And he's very nihilistic. He's like, we've moved beyond the Bible. You need someone who can tell you about the facts of life, but there are no facts. They're just fiction. But yes, I'm the one who made you.
And apparently you're ignoring Thomas. Which
Am I?
I was surprised. That's the reports from the chat anyway.
I believe it. And yeah, he's saying that Brady Specs isn't Matthew. Thank goodness. I mean, we can only handle one Matthew. Any more, and I think the overall evilness in the universe would just be too much.
So even one's a stretch sometimes. And speaking of evil, Dagwood apparently just whacked his scientist guy there.
He did not like what the doctor had to say to him at all. And Springtime, how you doing, Springtime? Saying this is a good time to confess to being the real writer of Star Trek V and save Captain Kirk. And Josh is saying, I finished cutting off all the parts for my MG Dorn before you even started the episode? MG Dorn?
I don't know.
Yeah, Josh, I'm afraid I'm not getting the reference. And how isn't Dagwood illegal? That's an interesting thing. Dagwood kinda is illegal. I mean, the very first episode of the series talked about how all the Gelfs, the G elves, were initially like illegal beings. They're all wrapped up. And here we see Ford's dream that he's playing football in the forest with a bunch of nuns.
He always drops the ball.
And now I have had this in my dreams a lot, where you feel like you need to run somewhere, but for some reason, like, you're just not able to run at your full speed. It's just like you're going through water. And he's saying, like, I don't get why I was like this. I didn't care about football, but my dad, he was the one who wanted me to play football. He's like, it's a sin to waste your God-given talents. And he's like, well, okay, yeah, that was frustrating, but I mean, my dad never wanted me to play against nuns. We weren't even Catholic. And Dagwood has been arrested, and we see that after he just, hit his creator over the head with a tree branch, he wrecked the guy's house. And Professor Brainy Specs, I think you're right. He's admitting to being the real writer of Star Trek V and universe I think that's a Googleplex, 34 Googleplex. I don't know. There's a lot of them. But he says it has to be true someplace.
And welcome, Arvixander.
Yes, hey, how you doing? Jolon True. Okay, so this prosecutor, oh my goodness, like I can't, like, okay, obviously they did this for thematic reasons, but she's over here talking about how the victim, had just turned 53 and he'll never be able to go golfing again or make love or, you know, smile or enjoy a summer afternoon because of, you know, Dagwood, this monster. And I'm like, I can't believe that the defendant isn't throwing out some objections as she throws out all these ad hominems against his defendant. Like, she's making a lot of definitive statements that a natural lawyer would be like, objection, she is not a professional, she can't, or a professional, you know, religious person, clergyman, doctor, or anything. Like, she's making claims that she hasn't proven in the court case, because this is like closing arguments.
And by the way, the professor is asking to pause the playback. I'm not sure why.
Sorry, Professor. Well, I can pause the playback. I am already so late that I shall not be pausing the playback.
And Thomas is claiming this show is woke.
Is it?
Or are they all these days? I mean, the lawyer's a woman. You know what that means.
Oh, true. A woman of color, even. So there you go.
Even.
But his lawyer tells him that Dagwood needs to take the stand, so he walks over and picks it up and he goes, "Where do I take it?" And Ford is in here. So apparently they got like a short recess after that. And Ford is saying, you need to go up there and tell them you didn't do it. And he goes, okay, I didn't do it. And he's like, well, you don't tell me, tell the juror. And he's clearly not understanding. Like, they're doing a great job with Dagwood. In the initial courtroom scene here, we saw him trying to mimic the mannerisms of his lawyer. And now we're really getting to see just what a childlike mind Dagwood has. Like, he knows something's wrong, but at the same time, he can't understand why something is wrong. And he's like, and he understands people are upset at him, but he can't understand why they're upset with him. And he's easily distractible, like me. He's like, if I just known I was supposed to remember what I was doing last night, I would have, but I didn't know I was supposed to. Why am I wearing a tie? It's like, you know, it's because it makes you look better. And they're like, okay, well, we find you guilty of first-degree murder. And Dagwood goes, thank you. Which I think is overreaching. First-degree murder would have been premeditated. And that's a hard hurdle to pass, which I guess they would have argued since he brought the tree branch with him. But still. And Daniel's Hot Topic, how you doing? Saying, what a nightmare today. I'm never getting into a car with your mom. Well, don't let a nightmare stop you. True, I mean, unless by nightmare you mean there's a real event that happened to you and it was just horrifying, in which case I understand. But if you mean like literally you had a nightmare in which like something crazy happened, well, in your nightmare dream, that doesn't make you get in a car again. Well, I mean, don't let that stop you. And more wokeness. The judge, again, POC. So I guess everyone's right. This is a woke show. And Josh, yeah, this may very well be the STD of the 90s. The Star Trek Discovery for people who are unfamiliar with the convention of shortening Star Trek series to 3 letters.
And supposedly the reason everybody is so sure that he did is that there was a recording of the crime, which is what they were showing at the beginning of the courtroom scene.
They're having a fun kind of roundtable discussion here, and Lewis is firmly on Dagwood's side. And of course, Dagwood's brother in real life is willing to throw him to the lions. What little brother isn't willing to throw him to the lions? But Piccolo's talking about, like, yes, I do like him, but at the same time, look at the evidence. Like, I can't let just the fact that I like the guy cause me to ignore the evidence. Whereas Lewis is just saying, no, there's no way at all that this could have been a real thing. Oh, and wow, we can buy viewers and followers. Thank you for letting us know. Chawanjo122346. I totally didn't make up this screen name to throw away. I wish there was a way to block spam, but for some reason Twitch doesn't. Like, I've set up some basic filters, but even still, Twitch doesn't it doesn't let you block that.
Meanwhile, Dag has been passing his time counting the dots in the ceiling squares.
And the captain comes and visit him, and Dagwood makes an interesting comment. Bridger is saying, "Do you understand? You're in jail." And Dagwood responds with, "I've always been in jail. This one just keeps me in a smaller room, basically." And so apparently Jim and Ford are going to transport Dagwood from the current jail to the UEO holding facility. And this guy is he's listing out all the things that Dagwood is not allowed to do. Things like he's only allowed to have 2 bathroom breaks a day. He has to be in your constant supervision. He's not allowed to have sex. Just thing after thing after thing, which humorously, I think he almost gets to do every last one of the things that the officer right here was telling him not to be doing. And who's Lewis? He's this guy on screen right now, Professor. And Thomas Potts. Do you want popularity? Buy followers and views by donating to Thomas. I think
that's a great idea.
I think that one's legit.
Exactly.
And Lewis, he's totally upset right now. He can't believe that he's having to do this while Dagwood is going through everything. And Lewis is actually extremely aware of his own issues. He's like, yeah, guess what? My mom and dad got a divorce. I have issues, but if you want to ask, like, did I ever wet the bed? Well, no, I didn't. And he makes an interesting comment here. He says, B'Elanna Troy, she's saying lots of things are hard to believe, but we have to, believe the science, basically. And Lewis responds with, look, lots of things are hard to believe, but it's our job as scientists to question beliefs. It's our jobs to push back and figure out what really is true. And that's one of the things that sounds nice, but when you stop to think about it, you quickly realize that's only true to a point. Like, there's no such thing as a scientist who doubts, does 2 and 2 really equal 4? Well, no, it's like that's quite proven. Or does an even and an even ever not equal an even? Or an even plus an even not equal an even? Well, no, we know for a fact it does.
That's what Josh Street's asking. When are you going to say his name right? Matthew never says anybody's name right.
Never.
He can barely pronounce his own name.
And often when I think about my name or say Matthew, I usually only, spell it with one T. So I can't even get my own name right. So here we have, just speaking of Darwins, here we have the candidate for the Darwin Award. This little girl is enjoying some holographic figurine on her hand and is ignoring this dump truck coming right for her. But Dagwood sees what's going on. And he easily busts out the chain and he grabs the dump truck and stops it. And it's kind of funny. It goes to show just how useless these handcuffs are. But, Ford is... At first, he sees Dagwood running off and he draws his gun on him. But then he sees what Dagwood is doing. It's like, did really no one else in this entire parking lot see what was going on? Like that guy in the background who's looking right at the camera? Like, I think he would have noticed this.
I think they're in Florida. Yeah, they're in Florida, so nobody's paying attention.
Yeah. And the girl is like, hey, you want to know something I can do? I can do this. And she twirls around. Yeah, cute, adorable. And Dagwood goes, you know what I can do? I can do this. And he starts to cry. Just one little tear out of his eye. And he goes, it's okay. She's like, well, don't cry, mister. And he goes, it's okay. I didn't know I could till just now. And it kind of feels good. And the mom, who through her own negligence almost got her 8, 9, 10-year-old daughter killed, is now yelling at Dagwood like, you stay away from my daughter. I'd rather her get run over by a dump truck than have someone like you close to her. Daniel's saying, you wrote me something on Discord. I will be sure to check that out after the stream, Daniel. If it was sometime recently, I have not been around my computer.
And since his session with Belano Troy wasn't useful, he went to the true counsel on the ship, which is Darwin.
Yeah. And he, it's interesting. He claims he doesn't know. Darwin claims, like, I don't know if Dagwood did it. He's lying because he just so happens to say the exact words to get Lewis to start piecing some stuff together. But he talks about how, Darwin is different. Sometimes there's different Darwins, maybe different Dagwood. And they see the UEO holding facility, and they're judging that this giant kind of half pyramid. It's like they started to make a pyramid and then stopped before getting up to the pinnacle of it. With helicopters coming in, they say, well, this place it just looks like hell. And I think it looks pretty well manicured. Like, you don't know what the living conditions are in there, but they decide they can't do it. They're not due to take Dagwood in to the place until tomorrow morning, and Dagwood never had a life to live. So what if we go let him have some fun?
And Thomas is asking, why risk anything by taking him in public?
Yeah,
well, I suppose that's because they wanted him to have his experiences if he never got a chance to do it again.
It's interesting because I kind of feel like Jim and Ford both half believe that he actually killed the guy, but they're like, we like him anyway, so we're just gonna let this go. So they take
realistic. Sorry, I'd say that realistically, based on his mental state, you have to wonder, would he even be considered competent to stand trial for a crime like that?
Yeah. And they take him to a Ferris wheel, but the guy's like, no, it's in the manual. You can't wear handcuffs and leg irons on a Ferris wheel. And he actually has a reason beyond just, not liking Dagwood or something. He points out that if there was a malfunction, you can't have someone whose hands and feet are bound when a fireman tries to rescue you. Like, that's going to interfere with it and just put everyone's life at risk. So they take off the handcuffs, which we've already seen they're kind of for decoration anyway. He can easily snap them. And after the Ferris wheel, they decide it's time to take him to a dinner. And Dagwood just like bites right through a lobster's head. And the maitre d' says, well, maybe sir would enjoy it better if you took the lobster out of its shell. And next up on the to-do list is let him drive a car. And Thomas, I do actually agree. They should be in a lot of trouble, like court-martialed for this. Like, they just told him to step on the brakes, which he's been doing, the haltingly jerking, but now he's instead stepping on the gas and takes out a newsstand and a phone booth and lots of things. But it makes no sense that these two are, one, allowed to transport him, like just the two of them. Like, they are way too close to the situation to be transporting him. Yeah, Robert, the girl's mother was totally the Karen back then. And now they are trying to pick up a woman of negotiable affections. And they claim they just want her to dance with him. And she's saying, no, I don't dance with Gelfs. And she says, well, go ask Sheila. And Sheila's out too. Like, no, I refuse it. I'm not going to dance with him. She says, no daggers.
And Josh Street makes a good point that Dagwood drives like Bird of Prey.
And it seems like it's getting toward morning at this point. We got kind of some pre-dawn light coming in now, where it was pitch black earlier. And Jim's upset that he couldn't get someone to dance with him. He's like, he's going to the can forever and he's never even been kissed. Oh, I'm wrong. I'm absolutely wrong, because they just point out that they have to get him back at dawn, and that's 6 hours from now. So this is supposed to be midnight, or midnight's about. And Jim says, look, okay, you know what? I know one girl. She'll come through for us. And so now we see Dagwood heading up to a mystery hotel room 542. Hey, Blank Podcast with Ian Slater. How you doing? And welcome to the show. I don't think I've seen you around before. And who should be there but Hancock? Not Hancock. Hitchens? Henderson. Hancock was last season. Henderson. She pulls him right into that hotel room. Which I did not see them going this direction with her character. You know, when I imagined what they would do with her, I didn't expect her to be dating a different character aboard the SeaQuest every single week. But so far she's dated O'Neill, and seems like maybe she was dating Jim for a hot second. And now she's very chummy with Dagwood. But not chummy enough for him to stay all night as he runs off, jumping through a Denny's window. Which, I don't know if you've ever been in a Denny's at midnight. But, I don't know. I feel like they're missing out on what clientele would actually be in a Denny's at midnight. Thomas Potts, you're right. I didn't mention what he said about getting kissed in jail. Uh, they mentioned that it was a distinct possibility that he would get kissed in jail. Kind of one of those under the breath mutterings. But Dagwood, he jumps through the window, beats everyone in Denny's up, and then says, you know what? I want to be a trucker. So he gets on his trucker hat and goes off. Metaphorical trucker hat, obviously. And goes off into the waning night. And Ian Slater says he's a newbie. Well, welcome around. I hope you're enjoying it. We do a SeaQuest review every Tuesday, usually a little bit earlier, but I was late today. And on Monday, we do a virtual pub, and any other day where I can find some free time, well, we might do some gaming or every once in a while, an actual produced video. Meanwhile, John, you've been doing a lot of fun Star Trek videos over on your channel.
Yes, thank you. At least I try. I could play a couple of Star Trek games. I alternate between some that I do like a Star Trek lore video.
And amazingly, for once in our lives, we see some cops shoot out the tires in a car chase. Like usually in movies, you know, they're shooting at the driver. But this time they're like, hey, shoot out the tires. So the guy gets out a shotgun, they get up right next to it, and they just take out the tires. That's the end of it. And even though the place just, the truck just flips over, blows up, Dagwood's fine. Gets out of there, smoke going out behind him. And last Victorian, is Denny's at midnight like the broken drum? Absolutely, yes. Except there's no orangutan. If there was an orangutan at a Denny's, it would 100% be the mended drum. If you don't get that reference, you need to go read some Discworld novels. Unfortunately, Henderson, she fell asleep. And she swears all we did was dance. That was it. Just dance, and I fell asleep somehow. And I'm kind of with Ford and Jim on this one. I would have given an incredulous look as well. Like, it seems like you wouldn't just zonk out while dancing. It seems like there might be a couple things between dancing and sleep that would have happened.
Yes, Josh Street, if you're referring to, I think it's Star Trek Fleet Command, yeah, they do involve a lot of discovery in that, but I play a different game called Star Trek Timelines. They do occasionally give you discovery characters, but it's easy to get rid of them.
And you also do the Starship Creator game.
Yes, that's a classic one, about 20 years old. It appeals to nerds like us.
And we got this random Gelf boy, and it zooms out, and we see B'Elanna Troy just weeping. And she's now convinced Dagwood didn't do it. Apparently she did a reading on him, which I'm not sure when she was able to do that or how, considering she's so far away from him. But right there, she did a reading on him, and what she saw was that he's just a frightened child, and frightened children don't kill people. And Bridger calls her out, says, no, that's not how this works, which he's right. Sometimes frightened children, you give them the right thing, and a frightened child can absolutely kill someone. Oh, thank you, John. Yes, go check out his channel, which a link for it was just provided. And Robert, am I prejudiced against Denny's Midnight clientele? No, not at all. I'm familiar with Denny's Midnight clientele. And so I recognize them when I see them, and that wasn't it. So Dagwood, he's desperately trying to remember something, and he sees this boy playing soccer across the way, and he suddenly remembers He remembers doing all this like martial art training with someone else, it looks like. But he remembers. He's shocked. He's like, Dagwood remembers. And that's when Ortiz comes in and informs Bridger Lewis is missing. He apparently has kind of gone AWOL. He knows that Dagwood is out and about, so he took one of Bridger's motorcycles and has run off to find Dagwood. And amazingly, even though they're in Florida, he's able to come right across Dagwood. Manhunt going on for this guy, but Lewis is the one who's able to find him. Which, you know what? I'm going to say this is Darwin's interference.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Darwin absolutely put the knowledge into his mind on how to find him. And Lewis is saying, you need to turn yourself in. And Dagwood says, you need to take me back home. And Lewis is like, Dagwood, I'm your friend. And Dagwood just picks him up and throws him on the motorcycle. And Lewis is looking quite scared, like, hey, you know what? Maybe I was wrong. Maybe Dagwood isn't the friendly guy like I was thinking. And Thomas, I agree. Season 1, I'm not sure if I would say much better, but I do think it was more TNG-ish, and as a result, a higher caliber of show. I'm still enjoying season 2. Don't get me wrong. So up walks Dagwood, and he's wondering, Lewis, are you okay? And Lewis is saying, just leave me alone. You almost killed me. Please, just stay back. And Dagwood is just crushed. He's like, I thought we were friends. So Dagwood leaves him alone. Says, I have to go to the beginning place. Ian Slater's saying that he is a Trek guy myself. You are in good company. You're definitely in the right place. And that you have a lot of questions about SeaQuest. Again, you're in the right place. We know all kinds of things SeaQuest. Now, I only remembered up to a single episode in episode 1 of season 2. But John knows the whole series, so this is a relearning experience for me and a fun time for John to get to watch all these again.
If you have any questions, just let us know. We'll do our best.
So Dagwood comes into this facility, pushes a green button, up slides the tube, and we find not a great image, but a tiny little Dagwood thing. So he goes up to the next tube and pushes the green button, and the tubes swap out, and there's another tiny Dagwood thing just kind of floating in the tube, but maybe a little bit bigger, maybe a tiny bit bigger. So he opens up the next one, and we find yet another floating Dagwood, but this time definitely bigger, almost full size at this point.
Yes, Thomas is correct. If you don't ask Matthew about what anybody's name is, you'll probably get the wrong answer.
I will get it wrong. And once I get it wrong, I just stick with it. And hey, wrestling guy, how you doing? Go ahead and ask here, Ian Slater. That's totally fine. We'll do our best to answer the questions as we watch the show. And of course, in the last one, we find the Dagwood clone. Clearly, this is the Dagwood that's been going around beating people up, killing the creator guy.
A doppelganger, if you will.
A doppelganger, yes. My favorite things, doppelgangers.
Indeed.
And they, they get into a good fight here. We got some decent fight music in the background. Nothing like what TOS have, mind you, but it is decent enough. And they, they did a decent enough job getting a stand-in to match. Who is this? Peter DeLuise's?
Yeah. Yes.
Now I don't know how tall in real life Peter DeLuise is. He might not be that tall, and just everyone in Hollywood's short. But I'm assuming he's actually kind of a big guy, and they've done a good job finding someone about his body type and about his height. Because sometimes when you're watching shows, you get to that moment where the stunt double comes on, and you're like, oh wow, that is obviously not Picard being thrown across the room. And they everyone shows up now, and Lewis is explaining there's 2 Dagwoods, and it was the other one that killed Doc Brown, which, of course, then there's the explosion. And I'm sitting here going, this is kind of important. Like, I think I'd be jumping in at this point, because this is the evidence you need to clear Dagwood's name. With everything going up in flames, what are you going to bring to a court of law? Be like, oh, don't worry, we're his best friends, and we're telling you that it was a doppelganger. We have no proof, but hey, you gotta trust us. There's 4 of us.
And Ian Slater asked, was there a break with the show? Well, in between the 2nd and 3rd seasons, there was a big time jump. I don't know if that's what you're referring to.
But not like an actual production break. It was still... Season 3 still came out the year after Season 2, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so they're saying, which one are you? Are you the good Dagwood or are you the bad Dagwood? And Dagwood says, she taught me how to dance. So like, okay, that proves that he's the good Dagwood. So hey Dagwood, let's all go home. And yes, Thomas, that place was blowing up a whole lot. I am quite surprised.
And Robert Rose Jr. says Peter DeLuise is really that big. Really, he was on 21 Jump Street.
Now it's Piccolo's turn to to be psychoanalyzed, and he's quite defensive. He's like, no, I like Dagwood. And then he makes some comment about, it's just like someone who has a bad haircut. And, B'Elanna's like, hey, because apparently he was talking about her. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. You're still a heartbreaker. And Piccolo's like, well, look at the time. Time to go. We'll talk later. So out he runs quickly. And in comes Jim, lying down on the cart. And just starts immediately talking about like anything at all that is mess about him. He's like, when I was 11 years old, I stole some coins from my uncle, but I just wanted some ice cream. So she's like, Jim, we don't do this lying down anymore. And Ian Slater, yes, there have been some Star Trek shows to guest star on SeaQuest. The most notable which being, I think at this point, Kirk himself. William Shatner appeared in an episode.
Yeah.
And Dagwood hangs a necktie on her door, which innocent little Dagwood might not realize that that might be a sign for something. Something about cables or cabins and rocking. And that's right, Jeff. Not only was it Will Shatner, but also Tim Russ. They were both in season 1. So the episode with William Shatner, or the episode with Tim Russ, Tuvok, was called The Photon Bullet. The episode with William Shatner was... I don't remember. I'll have to look it up here.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name. I think I got it. Where is it?
But Henderson wants to know, why did you run away that night? And he says, well, you know, I've never had a life before, and now that I had, I didn't want to lose it. And then she gives him a kiss, and he kind of gives a little growl and goes, you know, Dagwood has now been kissed.
By the way, the William Shatner episode was called Hide and Seek.
Yes, that was it. And those are both season one episodes. So Hide and Seek was season 1, episode 19, and Photon Bullet was season 1, episode 13. Mark Hamill, have I seen Mark Hamill in this yet?
Not yet. He'd be looking at, you got a few more weeks to go from that.
Spoilers. Yes. But then there's lots of other stars in here, like Ford, Jonathan Ford, the main black guy. He's in another sci-fi show called 7 Days, which it only had a handful of seasons also. He wasn't the main character, but he was the best friend of the main character. Obviously, you have Peter DeLuise and his brother, and his dad showed up at one point. You saw Admiral Paris throughout season 1. That was another Star Trek guy. So there have been quite a few actors who coincidentally, you know, starred in other sci-fi shows. And yes, Daniel, they were on separate episodes of SeaQuest, as Professor was saying. So, John, how did you like tonight's episode?
Well, since it was the Doppelganger episode, I always find those interesting.
Now, for those who are new here and don't get why we're making a joke out of doppelgangers, there was a virtual pub a month or two ago in which I talked at length about doppelgangers, and by the end of the episode, or by the end of the pub, everyone agreed that I was not just 100% right, but not just that I was 100% wrong, but I was infinity wrong. Just wrong about everything. In fact, I was so wrong that people who initially agreed with me were disagreeing with me by the end of the pub. Like I was so thoroughly wrong that I even convinced people who initially were on my side that I was just out of my mind. So now anytime doppelgangers come up, which have been far too often, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, since then, we all have a good time laughing at me being wrong.
It's a common occurrence around here.
So common. And Josh Street is letting us know that Megatron, aka Frank Welker, was the voice of Dolphin Boy's other father, Darwin. Oh, Lewis. He was the voice of Darwin, is what you're saying. Which, if you didn't know, Darwin was not just a trained dolphin. He was an animatronic. They just did a really good job with it.
Yep.
Which means there might be in someone's basement somewhere Darwin the dolphin.
It's possible.
That would be pretty cool. I wouldn't have any place for it in my place, but man, I think that'd be cool to have Darwin. In fact, Thomas Potts sent me a Darwin the action figure, which I have up on my bookshelf right here. I enjoy seeing Darwin the dolphin every day as I do work. And don't worry about it, Ian. We're here every single week. I usually do this Tuesday at 9:30. I was half hour late today because I'm a jerk. I'm the worst person out there. It's okay. Sure. We know it. People have been willing enough to accept me anyway, and I appreciate that. But we will be here every single Tuesday. Bring all your questions. We'll have lots of fun talking about it. Try not to ask any spoilers because, like I said, I'm only up to was season 2, episode 10. There are quite a few more episodes left. 13 in season 3, and then what is that? 10, 12 more, so just 25 more episodes. And that's 6 months, and we are going to, in theory, be done with SeaQuest. And
yes, there is a dolphin video game. Yep.
So Bradley, there is a game system coming out in October called the Amico. And I have a video that I need to do about it, talking about E3. They talked more details about it. And I got actually an interview with Rock Solid Productions, Tommy Tellerico, the guy who's making the system. Was a great time, awesome interview, but it was like 3 or 4 hours long. So I'm going to distill it down. And one of the things we found out at E3 2 days ago is that the people who made Echo the Dolphin are making a new Dolphin, possibly Echo the Dolphin game for the Amico. And I have an Amico on pre-order. So when it comes out in October, November, there will be a brand new Echo the Dolphin type game that I'm going to be trying out. We'll see how it goes, guys.
Maybe we'll actually be done with the first Echo game by then.
Maybe.
I'm not going to hold my breath.
Maybe. And Ian Slater's wondering who was the New York guy with gills on his back. That was Piccolo, is what everyone calls him, but his first name is indeed Tony?
Yes, Tony.
Yeah.
And he was in prison, but he agreed to an experiment where gills were surgically added, and for that he got released from prison.
Yeah. Well, yeah, basically, because they said they were trying to do like kind of a work release program, kind of people who were on white collar crimes, getting them, instead of just sitting in jail, have them be working off their prison sentence, which is it's honestly never worked out that well. Any sort of work program like that ends up just abusing prisoners and turning them into a slave labor force. Not that I have any strong feelings about our current criminal justice system, but that's why he was specifically assigned to the SeaQuest, because they're like, hey, you got gills, you're going to serve off your time. Why don't you make use of your gills on the SeaQuest? And he has pretty awesome gills because they appear to be both salt and freshwater gills. He can do it all.
I'm sure Darwin gave him some pointers.
Oh yeah. Thomas is saying, I stole the 99-cent game you bought for me. No, I'll do it. I'll get it done, Thomas. I will. It's just, my goodness, the last level that we did, which is still like 20 levels shy from beating it, I think, took me a solid hour. But no, I will continue and strive to get that done. And I do apologize for how long it's been since I've done my last gaming stream. I have been 100% doing work, and when I'm not doing work, I've been doing programming stuff for my bike stuff, which I'm really excited to have that almost done. And once I have it done, I really look forward to doing it an inaugural first time ride.
The professor's comment that in theory it'll take 6 months, but in reality it'll be more like 2032 before you're done.
That's true, Professor. I am not known for being on time, right? I mean, half an hour today. An anti-trucker on our movie nights, he gave me an extra hour this past week, and I still showed up 2 seconds before the stream started. So I mean, I'm just the worst.
Indeed. Over 500 articles of impeachment and counting.
It's true.
Now that's how wrong he is.
And Josh is saying it's just going to be the 1992 Echo game scaled up to 1080p. I hope not. They showed a very brief game trailer for it. Or not game, but in theory this was some gameplay footage. It should be something else. It should be something else. Ian Slater's saying that was the guy that I'm from New York also. It was cool to see a fellow New Yorker, even if he was an ex-con. And of course, I guess anyone who's a New Yorker in media has to be an ex-con for some reason. You can't just have oh yeah, here, I'm a stand-up guy. It seems like it's either ex-con, mobster, or Catholic. Like that's it. Now, is that an accurate representation of New York? I think that's a stereotype, but I've never been there, so I don't know. I mean, that's like me being like, oh yeah, every Texan they show on media is, rides a horse or has a gun, and well, they're not far from being right. Robert wants to know, how has the KFC gaming console come out yet? This is a real thing. This is a 100% real thing. It started off as a joke, but they said, hey, you know what? What if we took all the heat generated by a video card and just pumped that into a small oven area? Kind of like the easy bake concept. You took a 60-watt bulb or 100-watt bulb, and as long as the space was small enough, you could heat it up and make a tiny little cupcake. Well, KFC said we're going to do that, and so they've made a legitimate gaming PC, and they're just shunting the heat into an oven area so that you not only will have warm KFC chicken, but I think the idea is that you can even bake chicken in there. But no words on when its actual release date is.
And since the next virtual pub is apparently scheduled for 9 a.m., I still tend to be quite late for that one. Might even be a new record.
I'm going to guarantee it's going to be 12 hours late. I almost guarantee that just because I think I'm going to be funny, I'll probably schedule it actually for 9 a.m. and think I'm just hilarious. I am. And yes, Josh, I am very slow at playing games.
And Thomas says, according to your playlist, it's been 1 month since Echo. You could be on level 6 by now.
1 month? That sounds 100% right. I fully believe it's been a month, because that's been about the time I got excited that I was almost done getting all my bike stuff ready. And as you can see, I've been saying I'm almost ready for a month, but I really am almost ready. So, I mean, I'm almost ready to the point that maybe tomorrow I could potentially do a test run. We'll see what happens. And Josh is saying that the KFC thing started off as a bad joke for April Fools, and now it's turned into a console. And Ian is saying that he is from Brooklyn, but also lived in upstate, so he kind of floats with his accent, but yes and no about the stereotype. Okay. Well, guys, I am... Oh, wait. Other thoughts about the episode, John? Wait, we got derailed there, but yeah, thoughts about this week's episode.
Well, aside from the doppelganger thing, even though it wasn't really the right thing to do in terms of protocol, I thought it was nice that Brody and Ford tried to give Dagwood some experiences he'd never had.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, oh gosh, it was 100% out of protocol, but it was very nice. And that was the only point of the episode that really stretched my suspension of disbelief. I can accept there being a inept lawyer who's not objecting to things. I can accept that if I had a good friend and I really believed at heart he was a good guy, I can accept them not shipping him off right away, but giving him one night of life. The only thing I had a hard time believing was that they would actually allow Jim and Ford to be the people escorting him. That said...
Yeah, that seems yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that said, once you get past that doesn't make sense. It was a fun episode. I enjoyed really getting to see a Dagwood-centric episode. Mm-hmm. I think that Peter DeLuise is just nailing this character. He absolutely understands who Dagwood is supposed to be and doing such a good job of having him have this innocence coupled with ultimate strength just about.
And Thomas says you can't object during closing arguments.
Is that a fact? I am shocked.
Sounds right.
I guess I'm kind of shocked, because then in theory you could just make up absolute crap and not be called out on it. I mean, I fully acquiesce this to you, Thomas. Like, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just personally being shocked that that's how it's allowed to go down.
And you're up to Article 560.
I'm an amazing guy, apparently.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, fun episode. I think I enjoyed it more than, let's see, last week's episode was the one with Jim's mom being unfrozen from cryogenics. I would say that I enjoyed this episode a little bit more. Like I thought it was more fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
So with all that, we are going to wrap up because I am a bad person. I started late, so it is late, and I want to get to bed. So, guys, thanks for joining us. John, final thoughts as we wrap up?
Thank you for having me on again, as usual. Look forward to the episode next week. Hopefully, We'll be half an hour late that time.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see. You never know with Matthew. Bum. Well, everyone, take care, and hopefully next week we will actually be on time. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to hit that like button and share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will, and be sure to hit that bell icon to be notified of all the updates I do on this channel. If you want to support the work I'm doing here, then I hope you'll consider becoming one of my Patreons, where you'll get early access to all kinds of videos. And until the next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.